Hello everyone, I'm Jilson Santana, a data analyst and Excel expert. In this course you'll learn Excel from scratch. Everything you need in just 2 hours. Please download files from the description. Let's get started. I already launched the Excel, please do the same. This is Excel start screen. At the top I have options to create a blank workbook. I have options to take a tool from Excel, get started with formulas, pivot tables. This is tutorial, you can learn more about Excel. I have more templates. If I click here, Microsoft display options to create a new file from one of these templates. I can navigate from this template with my scroll on the mouse. I have options to choose a category, for example, business. If I click business, Microsoft load the related templates from business. You have different options you can learn and start your Excel file with one of these options. I have the scroll bar here on the right. I can click and drag, or I can use the arrows to navigate through these options. I can choose back to previous, click in home to get my start screen. I can search for a specific file if I have a lot of file. If I start type, Excel display the name of the file. If I use a file frequent, for example, PivotTable, I can hold my mouse over this icon and add to favorite. If I add one file to favorite, I can click here on favorite to see this file. I have another category, share with me. If people share the file with me, I can use this category to see the list of file. I can click in recent to get my list again. I can click here in new file. I can create a new blank file from here, and I can click in open to open file for different places on my computer. I can open file from recent, file need your attention, share with me, on drive, this PC, add place to find the new files, or browser on my computer. I click in home, and then I will click in blank workbook to start a new file. I will show about Excel interface. At the top I have tab, start from home to help. This tab organizes the functionality of Excel. At the home you have most commonly used functionality. If I click insert, I have other options to insert different resources on my worksheet. Draw, page layout for formatting, formulas. Formulas are organized by category: financial, tax, date and times, lookup and reference. If I click in data, I have data analysis tools, review, view, automate, help, and so on. We explored this during the course. When I hold my mouse over an icon, Excel displays a text description of this icon and a keyboard shortcut of this icon. In some cases, Excel displays more information. If you want to know more about, you can click and tell me more to help about this icon. But I will explore this in the next lesson. If you want to use a command frequent, for example, I click here in data. I have a lot of functionality here. Imagine I use the sort command all the time, and I want to fix this command on my screen, because if I change the category, this command is not available anymore. I need to go to data to have access to this command. At the top I have the quick access toolbar. Here these commands are fixed here. I can fix more commands in this quick access toolbar. I click with the right button over this command. I have this option, add to quick access toolbar. I can change it from different categories, but the commands stay all the time available. You can customize quick access toolbar with the command you use frequent. If I click here in this icon, I can see other commands I can include here. For example, new files. If I click again, open file. If you use this command frequent, you can fix this command here. I will click here to remove this command. But imagine you want to remove this command. You can click with the right button and choose the first option, remove from quick access toolbar. But imagine you want to include a different command is not available in this tab. You can click in this arrow At the bottom, you have this option, More Commands. If you click here, you have access all commands present here on Excel. You can navigate for this command, click and drag. Here is the popular command. You can click and drag to see the popular commands, or you can click in all commands. All available commands present in Excel you can see here. Imagine using a lot in 3D effects. You can click in this button add, or you can use other command. You can click and add again. If you click in OK, now these new comments are available here. I click in this arrow again, more comments, but I want you to remove this. I click and remove, and I click and remove. Clicking OK. I have the formula bar. I will show more about this in the future. First, I have columns at the top and rows in the left. I will explain more about this during the course, but this is Excel interface. Let's talk about the differences between worksheet and workbook. Workbook is a file here at the top because I not saved this file yet. Excel display the name book1. Workbook is a file you save in your computer, and worksheet here is where you put your information, where you enter your data. In my case, I have one worksheet, but I can create as many worksheets I want. In my case, I can click in this icon to create new worksheet. Excel display the name worksheet in 2. I can create more worksheets, like pages in Microsoft Word. Worksheets are represented by columns, column A, B, C, D. In the left, I have numbers, represent rows number 1, number 2, 3. The intersection between rows and columns represent cell. If I want to navigate for this cell, I can use the mouse. I click, Excel display H7, D3. This is the cell address. I use the cell address when I use the formulas. I explore this during the course. But for now, you need to understand the intersection between rows and columns represent cell. You can navigate with this cell using the arrows on keyboard to up, down, left and right, or mouse. At the bottom, I have the zoom. I can click in this icon to zoom in. When I have more data in this worksheet, I can increase or decrease the zoom to more clear the information. If I click zoom out, I can reduce this. These numbers represent the amount zoom I apply in this worksheet. I can click here and choose about one of these predefined settings. I can use 200%, or I can customize. I use 130% and clicking OK. But this is independent. If I click in another worksheet, Excel display 100%. You can customize this for worksheet. I click here. You can navigate from this worksheet horizontal. Click here and you can click and drag, or I can use the mouse wheel to scroll up. This is how to navigate from worksheet here on Excel. Now I will show how to get help here on Excel. I told you in another lesson, if you hover your mouse over an icon, Excel display additional information about this icon. But in some icons, Excel display the icon Tell Me More. This represents help. If I click in Tell Me More, Excel open the help system. With the help system, you can learn a lot about Excel. For example, in this case, Imagine in Imagine Cell. If you want it, you can watch an explanation about this. You can navigate with the mouse wheel and scroll up and scroll down about available information. Here you can see an overview about formulas in Excel, how to avoid the broken formula. You can exploration this. If I click Home icon, I go to the Home Systems. Get started with Excel, formulas and functions. You can navigate this. For example, keyboard shortcuts in Excel. This is interesting topic you can learn. I recommend you explore this. You can see more information, frequent using shortcuts. You can click, you can see this is very interesting. If you use a keyboard a lot, can help to improve your productivity. I can click in this icon to previous page, or I can click in this icon direct to home. You can type to export for searching. For example, I want you to know about conditional format. Conditional. When I start typing, Excel display options. I can click conditional format. Excel display short information about conditional format. Imagine I want to know where is conditional format icon. I can click and show me, and Excel highlight this conditional format and show me the position of this icon on interface. I can click and go it, and you can continue exploring using conditional format to highlight information on Excel. This is very interesting to learn. I close this, but help system is also available here in the tab help. I can click here, clicking this icon help. If you click here, Excel load the help system for you. I 100% recommend you use this to learn more about Excel. This is interesting. Now I start to use the source file of the course. I have two options to open this file. First, I can click here in File, and then navigate in my computer where I save this file to open this file. But I'll click here in this arrow to back. I will close the Excel. I will show how to use this file from this course to practice with me. Excel display the option to save this file. I don't want to save this file, not now. I will show how to save this file in another lesson. I click in don't save. When you download the course file, Excel for beginners full course, you receive a zip file, a compressed file. This file contains all files I use in this course. This file I save in my folder download. You need to double click in this folder. You see a new folder. Please select this folder, click in copy, or press Ctrl+C on keyboard, and then navigate the folder you want to save this file. In my case, I will put this file in Documents. I will click here in Documents and then click and paste. You can press Ctrl+V to paste. This file I will use during the course. I will double click in this folder. You have a list of files. For each lesson, you will receive two files. The first file without the final is the start file. For example, tables and pivots. This is the start file. I always use this file during the lessons. The second version of these files is for reference, is my final file, the end of the project. You can use this file as an answer file to compare what you do with my final version. I start using this file, data entry. I'll double click here to open this file. I start in the entry data. I have others worksheet here, AutoFill, dates and times, flash field. I explain more this in the next lesson. But please click here and enter data. Please click in A2 to start typing here. I will show how to type text here on Excel. I will create a small table. I will type here category. After finish typing, I can press enter to finish editing. I can click in another cell to type the first 3 months. I can press tab on keyboard to go to the next cell and start typing another month. And I can click with the mouse in another cell. In this case, I can click and type the name of the month. You can use the keyboard or mouse. I type a new information and press enter. I type some information here in A3, for example, sales and profit. Imagine you type wrong text or make a mistake. In my case, I want to edit expense. I can double click, and with the cursor of the mouse, I put the cursor before the text and replace with new information and press enter. It's easy to edit in Excel. Imagine you start typing a text, for example, text, and I want to replace this information. With Excel, you need only select the cell and start typing a new information to replace the information. But if you want, you can delete and press enter. Doesn't matter, it's with you. Texts are left aligned. You can see here. This is the cell area in text are left aligned. Let's start typing numbers. For sales from January to March, you can type the same values or use other numbers, doesn't matter. And I can start type. Then I can see numbers are right aligned, text left aligned, and numbers right aligned. But imagine in expensive and I intentional make a mistake. Instead of type 0, I put a wrong row. Excel understand this not as a number but as a text because I put a wrong row instead of 0. I need to edit this to Excel understand this as a number. This is important because if you want to summarize numbers with text, you have an error on Excel. You need to put correct information. Numbers with numbers and text with text. I double click here and delete the O and put the 0, and now Excel understand this as numbers. Please put other numbers to have a small table here on Excel. You can pause the video and type this information and continue watching. Now let's take a look at another interesting feature here, AutoFill. I will click here and the worksheet AutoFill in the bottom is the same table we already created earlier, but now with focus on AutoFill. AutoFill features allow you to quickly create lists with patterns. I'll delete here the total, and now if I have select this cell in the bottom, if I scroll down, my mouse changes, and then I can click and drag. Excel understand the pattern and release the mouse. Excel create the entire months for me. This work vertical and horizontal. For example, if I can drag, Excel copy this list below, and I can drag at the top. Excel do the same to remove this. I can use Ctrl Z to undo this. This work with numbers too. If I have a sequence of numbers, number 1 and number 2, and press enter, I can select both number 1 and number 2 and drag and drop. Excel continue create this list quickly for me. Ctrl Z to undo. This works too with day of the week. I can use a complete name, Monday, press tab for the next cell, then click, put the mouse at the right corner, and then click and drag, and Excel create the days of the week for me. I can Ctrl Z to undo. I need only the first 3 characters for Excel understand. I can only enter the first 3 characters, and then I can copy down, and Excel understand the pattern. If I continue scroll down the list, Excel start again, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I can Ctrl Z to delete this. This work with sequence Q1 for quarter 1, and can click and drag. Excel understand the pattern and quickly complete other quarter. If I can continue Excel quarter 1 again, this is work for quarters 2. Ctrl Z to undo. This is an easy and powerful feature. You can use it to quickly create lists on Excel. Now let's take a look how to use dates and times here on Excel. I'm here in the worksheet dates and times. Excel uses the computer settings. In my case, United States settings. Depends on the country where you're watching this video, you use your local settings on your computer. In my case, I need to start with the month, then the day of the month and the year, and press enter. Excel understands date as a number. With this right align, you can see here. I can use this format too. You can use one number or 2 number. It with you. Excel understands the format and the year. I can use another format. Excel understands this as a date too. But if I enter wrong date, 11/31, this is left aligned. Excel don't recognize this as a date because 31 is a wrong date for November 2025. If I double click and put the mouse before the number 1, click and delete this number 1 and put the correct number, Excel now understands this as a date. I told you Excel recognizes this as a number. If I click here, Excel show me this as a date. I'll explore more about number format in the future, but for now, if I click here and choose a number, you can see this is a number. Excel recognizes this date as a number. I can use undo here to go back to the date. I can make operators with date. If I click here and type equal and click in the cell where the date is in plus 10 days and press enter, Excel calculated the new data for me. In this case, 10 of December 2025. I'll explore more this in the next lessons. With this, you can make calculator with dates. I can delete this and press enter. The time, you have two options. I can enter 10 colon 00 and press enter. If I click here, I can see Excel understand and put this AM here. At the bottom, I can enter 05 and press enter. Excel expect this as AM, but for me, I don't want this as AM. I want this as PM date. I can double click and change PM and press enter. Excel understand this is a PM format. If I want to enter 24 hours clock, I can use this. I can enter this and press enter, and Excel recognize this as PM format too. This is the most common way you can work with dates and times here on Excel. Here I have a list of clients and I want to separate first name over the last name. To do this, I can start using the flash fill to quickly improve my productivity here on Excel. The first client is Sarah Johnson. I'll start typing in the first line Sarah and press enter. In the second row, I can call this line or row. When I start typing, Excel display below the list. Excel is smart and understand what I want to do. And then to confirm, I can press enter and quickly Excel extract all first name of this list on my clients. If this list is thousands and thousands, Excel do this quickly. With this, you can improve your productivity on Excel. I'll do the same for the last name. I'll start typing and press enter. If I don't want to start typing this and only click to activate the flash fill, I can click here on the data. I have data tools. I can click here in the first icon, flash fill, or I can use the shortcut Ctrl E. If I click here, Excel understands what I do previous and then extract the last name. Is amazing feature. You can use this feature for join. I want to create an email with the first name and the last name, and Excel create the rest for me. I can use the first name dot. After I create the first email with the name dot last name, I can click on flash fill. Excel create the entire list of email for me. This is amazing feature. I will save this. You can quickly improve your productivity. These features work with names, dates, formats. You can use this a lot. Now let's talk about undo and redo. Here at the top, I can use the shortcut Ctrl Z to undo actions and Ctrl Y to redo actions. If I type one text and press enter and click here in this arrow undo or Ctrl Z, I can back before these actions. If I click in the next redo, I can type again this text. If I click in this arrow, I can see how many actions I can undo. Excel stores the last 100 actions you made here. In my case, if I scroll down and select this number and click, Excel undo this amount of actions at once. If I want to go back 1 or 2 or all these actions, I can select and click here, and I have all my data back. This rather depends of how many actions you undo. If I undo twice, I can only redo twice more the last actions I made. In this case, the F letters I enter here. I want it twice. If I undo this amount, these arrows now can redo this amount. You can use undo and redo to manipulate dates, or use the shortcut Ctrl Z to undo and Ctrl Y to redo. Another important thing to remember here is to save your work, because if you have a problem with your computer or power supply, doesn't matter, you can lose everything you work. In my case, this file is already saved. Data entry is the name of the file. To save these actions, I can click here in the save button or press Ctrl S to save this. But imagine you start a new document and don't save this project yet. You can click here and file. I have this option save here. If I choose save and this is a new file, Excel give me the options to save this on my computer or OneDrive. In this case, the file already saved. I can use this save as. If I click here and save as, I have the options to save this file as a new file with new name, for example data entry 2, or I can use different type of files. I can export this as an old version of Excel, or I can use PDF format. If I wanted to send this as a PDF, I can choose the format in this list. Then I can save this in the location I want. In my case, I save all my files here on my documents. I need to click here in browse, and then I can type a new name for this file, or I can choose a different format for this file. It is important to preserve your work. Cancel this, and to go back to my work, I click here in this arrow, and now I'm back on my work with the data saved. It's important to remember, save your document. Doesn't matter in your computer or in the cloud. In this lesson, I will start to use another file. The file for this lesson is core functions. You can see here at the top. In this lesson, we will start studying about formulas on Excel. I have the previous table we already created. I formatted this table, but I will show how to do this in the future. For now, we focus on the formulas on Excel. I click here in cell B5. Formulas in Excel, we use an equal sign. I want to calculate the profit, sales minus expenses. I can type the number direct, use minus another number, and press enter. If I do this, Excel calculate the profit for me. The problem here is if I update this number, if I double click here and change this number for another number and press enter, the profit continue the same, because this not update automatic this type of formula. To escape this, I can press Ctrl Z to undo this and edit this formula. Instead of using the numbers direct in the formulas, I can click and select and delete this. Instead of typing the numbers here, I can use the cell reference. Here I have column B and row 3. I can type B3. If I type B3, Excel highlight the cell. Minus, I type now B4, the cell address. You can see Excel change the color. Blue refers the first cell and red refers the another cell. With this, it's easy for understand the formulas and operators. B3 minus B4 and press enter, I have the same result here. But now if I double click here and change this number and press enter, profit is now automatically update here. This is more efficient way to use a cell here on Excel. I will delete this and press enter. Another way you can use it to type your formulas is start with equals and then using the arrows on keyboard to select the cell instead of typing and press minus, and again use the arrows on keyboard to select another cell. When the cell are already selected, I press enter, the same result. I can press Ctrl Z to undo this. I will delete this again and press enter. Finally, you can use the mouse to select the cells. I can start equals, click on the cell I wanted to select, minus, click on another cell and press enter. This is the most common way to calculate on Excel. Another important thing here is how to use the status bar to quickly have information about these numbers. If I select this entire sales here for the first 3 months and I want you to know the total of these sales, I can see here at the bottom I have average, the count 3, and the sum of this total. This is status bar minimal operations. I can click with the right button here in this list and I can include another type of calculations, maximum, minimum. If I wanted to know the maximum value in this selection, I can click here and minimum, and now Excel display this new information, minimum and max. Only need to click with the right button and click to select or unselect. You can change this analysis you have here in the status bar. But I want these values here in total, not only in status bar. When they select the values, I can start with equals. I can use the cell address here, but if I wanted to analyze a large amount of data, is not efficient to type one cell address, another cell address. You can do this with a function. I start the sum, S-U-N function. When I start type the sum function here on the right, you can see the description of this function, and you can see now others functions start with the same name. You can double click here or press tab to select these functions. The functions need 2 parameters. First, the numbers you want to summarize. In my case, I wanted to summarize this interval from January to March. I can click, hold the mouse button and drag over the 3 months, and Excel type this address for me. I can close the parentheses, it's optional, and press enter. Excel calculates my total of the sales from the first 3 months. If I wanted to edit this formula, I can use the formula bar here at the top, click and direct edit this formula and press enter, or I can double click and delete numbers or include another number and press enter again. This is most common way to calculate here on Excel. Another important thing to know here is the operation orders. First, Excel uses parentheses, then division and the asterisk is to multiplication, and then addition and minus. I want to know about how much will be the profit if I increase and growth 7%. How to do this? I can start with equal, select here B5 plus multiplication, the percent, 7%, G3, and press enter. Now I know 7% growth on profit is 490. I want to summarize this number with the profit I already have. I can double click here and edit it. I can click before B5 and include a plus sign and click here and click here again. Now I have the value is already on B5 plus the result of this multiplication, B5 plus G3. If I press enter, now Excel has the new value from profit with 7% growth. How Excel do this? This operation order here. I double click. First, the multiplication represented here by asterisk Hide priority is compared minus and plus operation. Excel run this part first, and finally Excel summarize the result of this part with this value. But with parentheses I can change the order. If I want this part execute first, I can select include a parenthesis in this part. Excel first execute this part and then execute the second part. I press enter. The result is wrong, I know. With parentheses you can control the operation orders on Excel. In some cases, in advanced formulas, you can use sometimes 2 parentheses or 3 parentheses to control how Excel calculate the things, the order of calculate. I will delete this and press enter to have the correct value. I will save this. This is how important is operation order. I will use the worksheet cell reference here at the bottom. It's the same table we already working, but for now we focus on cell reference. I want you to calculate the profit for the month February and March. I don't need to create the formula again. I can use cell reference and copy this formula for the next month. You can see here in the right corner, when I select the cell, Excel highlight the cell. If I hover my mouse at the right bottom in the cell, the mouse changes. With this I can click, hold my mouse and copy the cell and release the mouse. When I release the mouse, Excel calculate profit for the other month for me. But Excel is smart. Excel understands I need to update this formula. If I click here, I can see this is B3 minus B4 for January. In the February, don't make sense to copy the sum reference because I'm in February. I want you to know the profit on February. With this, Excel update the cell reference. Instead of using column B, Excel update the formula to C3 minus C4, and now I have the correct result. The same for March, D3 minus D4. It's very easy to copy formulas and Excel update the reference. This works the same for vertical. Now I want you to know the total for expenses here. I can hover my mouse at the bottom of the cell. When my mouse changes, I can click, hold my mouse, press and drag. When I finish, I release the mouse and Excel calculate all these numbers for me. This is easy way to copy formulas on Excel. I will save this. Another important thing to know here is about relative reference and absolute reference. Now we use a relative reference, relative to the column and relative the row. Relative because here I'm in column B. When I copy the formula, Excel update to the column C. But imagine in this situation, I want you to calculate the tax amount over profit. I have a tax rate here and I want to apply this tax over my profit. To do this, I start with equal sign and then click in profit asterisk to multiply by the tax rate. I will multiply the profit amount plus the tax rate. When I press enter, Excel calculate 7% over my profit is 490. Okay, now let's copy the formula to the February. I click here and copy. Oops, 0. What happened? If I look at my formula bar, Excel multiply C5, okay. If I double click here, Excel multiply column C, row 5, C5, H3, Excel update from column B to column C, okay, it's right. But now Excel update the cell reference here in column G to column H. I don't want this. I want this formula to use this reference. I can fix this with absolute reference. I press escape, delete this. To fix a column or row, I use the fix reference. I double click here. I use a dollar sign before the column. I want to fix. If I use a dollar sign before the column G, I fix the column, and I want to fix the row. I can press enter and copy my formula, and Excel use relative the first part, the profit, reference the February, okay, but the cell about the tax continue the same. This is what I need. I have this calculate now correct. But if you don't want to type this manually, you can use the keyboard to change this. You can press and hold function K on keyboard and press F4. You remove first the column. If you press F4 again, you remove the row and put again in the column, and press F4 again, you remove all. If you press F4 again, you can have this sign in the column and row. I will press enter. You can manually enter dollar sign or use the keyboard F4 to change this. You can use for columns and rows. It's not necessary to use both. In my case, I want to fix the column. I don't want the column change, and I want to fix the row because I don't want the row changes. I will press enter. If I want to calculate about the total tax, I can do the same. I can equal, select the cell, use the asterisk sign, and multiply by the total. And now I know the total tax I will pay. I will save this. This will work horizontal or vertical. Now you understand relative and absolute reference. Another important feature here, if I want to escape this fixed column and rows, I can name this cell. Here at the top I have name box. I can use a name box for this cell. I can type tax rates without the space and press enter, and then instead of using absolute reference here, I can double click on the formula, delete the first part, and start typing. When I start typing, Excel show me tax rate, the name I give for this cell. I can select or press tab, and now Excel uses not a relative reference or absolute reference. Excel uses the cell name as a name range and press enter. Excel do the same calculations, but now I can copy the cell again, and now Excel multiply the reference C5 multiply by tax rate with name. Excel understand the address of the cell and use this address to calculate. Is another alternative methodology you can use for calculate. You can use relative reference, absolute reference, or you can use name range for cells, or you can use both, depends of your data and the situation. I'll press enter and save this worksheet. I'm here in the worksheet sum function. At this worksheet I have sales data from a hotel smart in Miami. I have category of data, room revenue from January to March. I have service earnings and have additional charges for these 3 months. I want to calculate the total income from January, February and March. You already know how to use the sum functions. When I start typing, I can select sum function here, the list. Excel display additional information about this function, add all the number in a range of the cell. Existing others variations from this function, some if, but I want to the sum function. I can press tab and I can select and drag the interval where I want to sum and close the parentheses. Close the parentheses is optional. If I press enter, Excel understand and close the parentheses for me. But I have at the top the formula tab. If I click here on the formula tab, I have function organizing category. You can see here I have auto sum function and I have the button insert function. I will delete this, click here again. If I click here, insert functions, Excel display a box with the list of most recent used functions. I have the list here, and if I scroll down, I can see other functions, or I can use this list to select one function by category. I can click the functions and click OK. Excel display this window. I can inform the ranges, but for now I will cancel this because I prefer enter the format manually. I think it's more easy for understand. If I click here in auto zoom, or I can use the shortcut alt plus icon, Excel automatically understand I want to summarize the previous interval. If I press enter, now Excel summarize everything for me. I can copy this work, or I can use auto zoom. Excel highlight the interval and I press enter. I quickly have my result. But if I select the entire interval and press auto zoom, Excel quickly summarize all the interval. I will press Ctrl Z. You can do other operations. I will delete this and press enter. I can analyze another things instead only summarize the data. If I go here and auto zoom and click in this arrow, I can see average. I can count the number of cells. I can have the maximum or the minimum. If I want to know the average from room revenue, I can click here. Excel understand the interval. Change the functions from sum to average and press enter. Now I know the average from my room revenue are this amount. I can delete this and I can click here in this arrow again with the max value and press enter. The max value is this. Of course, this is a short table, but if I have thousands and thousands sales from this table, Excel can do this horizontal or vertical, and I have the result quickly. I will delete this. I can select the entire interval using auto zoom because I want to summarize these values, and now I have all my results. Another important thing to know here, in this formula tab you have name manager. If I click in name manager, I can edit this name, cell reference, delete, create new. I will close this. If you define name ranges for cell, where you manage this name is here in the formula tab. Name manager, you can manage all cells. You already set a name. I will close this, save this file. I'm here on max function worksheet. I have many worksheets here. When you have many worksheets, if you look at the left bottom corner, you can see these arrows. If I click here, I can navigate from this worksheet. If I click on the left, I can back on this worksheet. Use this to the right or to the left and navigation to the worksheet. I'm in the worksheet max function. I continue here in the formula tab at the top. Here I have sales from Hotel Smart Miami reservation. I have the date, the reservation, the guest name, the state from this guest, the city, and total this reservation. I want to know the highest reservation. To do this, I use a new function, the max function. If I click here, when I start type, I see the list of functions with these two letters, and if I click here in max, Excel display additional information from this function. I'll double click or press tab. First, I want to select the cell ranges where I want to analyze. I want to analyze the total. To do this, I click, hold the mouse and drag. I can continue scroll and select the entire list. This is a small list. It's easy for me to scroll and select this list. I use the mouse scroll now. You can see the first is E3, the first row, and column E, and the end is E52. If I have thousands and thousands rows in this worksheet, I can type manually the first row to analyze, and then type the last row I want to analyze. If I type this and scroll down, I can see the entire list and close the parentheses. Is optional, but I want to close and press enter. When I press enter, Excel now give me the information. The highest reservation from these cells is this amount. I can save this. You can use the max functions to analyze max value from your sales or your date. I can press enter. Now I'm in the worksheet min function. This is opposite of the other. And now I want to know lowest reservation. I use a min function. When I start type, I can see the function. I can press tab. E3 is the interval. I can type E3 colon E52. I can close parentheses. Excel will analyze the lowest reservation. I can press enter, and now I have my result. I use this as an example of hotel reservation, but you can use it for different sales, different data you analyze in your work. Doesn't matter. I'm here in average function worksheet at the bottom. I want to calculate the average reservation. I use the average function. When I start typing, Excel show me the list of the function. I'll double click. The idea is the same. I inform the first cell I wanted to select, or I can click and drag. Doesn't matter. Select the entire interval. Here at the bottom you can drag for vertical or horizontal. I scroll back, close the parentheses, and press enter. Now I know the average reservation from my hotel. Now let's know how to use the count functions. I'm here in the worksheet count functions. These three functions are the most used. I have the count A, and count blank. Count the numbers or reservations, only numbers in the column. If I want to know how many reservations I have, I can use this column as a reference and then count the number of reservations. I click here, equal. When I start type count, Excel display the function. Count the number of cells in the range that contain numbers. Only count numbers. I can type, I can click and drag is more quickly, and close the parentheses and press enter. I have 50 reservations in this worksheet. If I have thousands and thousands and thousands, or maybe millions of reservations, I can type the first cell and the end of the last cell, and Excel analyze all information for me. Now let's use the count A function. Count A functions count numbers and letters. Here in my column I have only numbers in this column, but if I have letters and numbers, count A count both numbers and letters. I start count, I select count A, double click. In this case I use the city name. I can select here. The result will be the same because I have a short number of information here, but if I have thousands information, this will be different. I can press enter. If I change this for number, count A, continue, count text and number. I undo this. But if I change this for text, for example, the count functions changes. First, count only numbers, and the second, count numbers and letters. This is a short list, but you can understand now both. And count blank, count only blank values. If I have blank values, I can count these numbers. I can start, count blank, select which sequence I want, and press enter. 0 because I don't have blank information here. I'll delete one value and press enter, and now I have different information here. If you're working with big ass worksheet with a lot of data, these functions will be very useful for you. You can analyze the numbers, text, blank cells, you can do a lot of work with these functions. I'm here on VLOOKUP function worksheet. At the bottom, I'll show one of the most important functions on Excel. I include a new column here in the table, reservation ID, that identify each reservation. For example, 1002 identify this reservation. 1005 identify another reservation. Each reservation has your own unique code. What I want to do here, I want to enter a reservation ID here and get the guest name and total of this reservation. Here the list is short for demonstration purpose, but imagine I have thousands and thousands reservations. I can use the VLOOKUP function to look up this data and return the data I want. I will start here in the guest name equals VLOOKUP. When you start type Excel display the function, I can double click or press tab to start the function. The function has some information I need to inform. First, lookup value. The value I want to look up and compare. I will select here because here I enter the code I want to find and look. Table array, where Excel will find this lookup value. In this case, my table. I can click in the first cell, look at the last cell, press shift on the keyboard and click here and scroll up. Now I have the entire table select from A3 to F52. This is the address I want to look up. The column index, which column I want to return. In this case, guest name. The first column is number 1, the second, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 6. Guest name is in the third column. I use the number 3, comma. The last parameter is optional. The default Excel try to compare the value using the approximate method. For example, if I type here 1000, Excel try to find 1000 value and compare the value I type here with the value in the column reservation ID. And Excel don't find 1000 but found 1001. Excel select the approximate value and return for me. But in my case, I don't want this. I want the exact match. I can type false or 0, doesn't matter. With this, Excel understand I want to find the exact match. If I type here 1001, I want to compare with 1001. Depends on your situation, you can use approximate or exact match. I will close the parentheses and press enter. Excel display not available because I don't have a number here. I want to type 1000 and press enter. With this, Excel look up in this column for this value, and when the Excel found this reservation, Excel return the guest name. In this case, David Smith. I compare, it's okay. Now I want to return the total of this reservation equals VLOOKUP. In this case, I use a double click lookup value. I click here again, comma, the table array. Now I use the mouse to select the table, click in the first cell, hold the mouse and drag. After select the entire table, I scroll up, column index number. In this case, column 6. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 is the number of the column I want to return, the total. And for the match, I use, in this case, I use false, because lookup range can be false or 0. In the previous, I use 0, but now I use false. So you can see, you can use both, doesn't matter, work the same. Close the parentheses and press enter. Now I have the result. I will save this. If I change this for another reservation, 1030, and press enter, Excel update the information. Let's verify if everything is okay. 130, Andrew Jones. Look up in this column 1030, Andrew Jones 1000 and 1300. The value it's okay too. This is an important function. The lookup value can be text, numbers. You can use it for search about all different data you want to return. In this list I have 2 items, but if I have a more complete table, I can return more information if I want. I can copy the formula at the bottom and I can have more information. One important thing to note about VLOOKUP function: the lookup column need be the first in the table. If this column is not at the first and the left, stay another position, VLOOKUP function don't work. This is a limitation of the VLOOKUP function. Pay attention to this first column, the lookup column, and other information after this column. Now let's take a look at the important new function of the Excel 365, XLOOKUP. I'm here in the worksheet XLOOKUP function. This is a new function included in the Excel 365. If you use an earlier version of Excel, you can watch this lesson to understand this important function. If you use Excel 365, you can have the benefit of this important function. This example works similar we learned in the previous lesson, but for now, one important thing: the lookup column don't need anymore to be the first column on the table. You can put this column in any position you want. In my case, I put in the last position to be clear. This limitation of VLOOKUP function now is resolved on XLOOKUP function. In practice, XLOOKUP functions was created to replace VLOOKUP function. If you use Excel 365, you don't need more to use VLOOKUP function. You can focus and use it from now XLOOKUP function. XLOOKUP function replace everything you can do with VLOOKUP functions and more. Let's understand how to use this function. It's easy. You can start equal XLOOKUP. I can double click here, lookup value. I select this cell, comma. Now the difference is the lookup array. I can select the column I want to look up and compile the value. This is lookup array, comma, but now this is very important, return array. In the past, I need to select the entire table, specify the column index I want to return, but now with XLOOKUP it's more easy. I need to select the return column I want to return. In this case, guest name. I only need to select guest name. Excel understand it need to compare the value. For example, 1003. I type here 1003. Excel compare the value. When Excel found the result, Excel return the guest name. This is easy. If Excel try to find a reservation and don't find, I can type not found or other text. It's optional. You can use it or not. It with you. Not is necessary, but okay. Math mode, exact math. I would prefer in this case. You have other options: exact math, or next smaller items, and so on. You can select the math you want. In my case, I use 0 because I want to exact math, and close the parentheses and press enter. Not found because here I don't have no value yet, but if I enter 1003 and press enter, Excel compared this value, look up and found this value, and then Excel return the guest name. Now I use a different way. Instead of start typing all the function again, I can click and copy the functions, but now I can update the cell reference. I can double click to edit this function. I can hover my mouse here and click and drag to update the cell reference. Here I can do the same. It's another way to do this. I can click and drag to update the cell reference, and now instead of return the guest name, I can click and drag and update to this reference. I can select and drag. I told you before, this you can click and drag and can resize this. If your mouse changes, you can click and drag, hold the mouse and move, and now update address reference. I can press enter. I have the same result. I use this method for you understand. You can use both start typing, or you can copy the formula and update the reference. It's another way. One is not best the other. You can use one or other. It's with you. I press enter. If I enter another reservation ID, press Excel, look up the information and return the values for me. This is important functions. I really recommend to practice and use the XLOOKUP function because it's one of the most important functions here on Excel. In this lesson, I will use the format file. Please open this file if you want to practice with me. I have a worksheet reservations here. In this lesson, I will show how to format text, how to adjust your worksheet to better presentation. Here at first, I have the cell A1. You can see here the text Hotel Smart Miami is more larger than the cell width. With this, the text continue in the next cell. But if I click in another cell, B1, I can type normal text here and press enter. The text is still here. I can see in the formula bar, but behind B1 cell. I undo this. I will show how to use text across multiple cells. I can click, hold my mouse and drag to select more than one column. And here I have in the home tab, I have this option here, merge and center. I can see a lot of options. I use the first, merge and center. I can click here. Excel combine all these cells as an only cell. If you click here, you can see the description what this command do. If you want to unmerge this cell, I will click here, unmerge this cell. The Excel restore all columns. But I want to this, I can click here and merge and center. Now I will show how to format text here. I can click and hold the mouse and drag to select multiple rows, and then here font family I can click. If I hover my mouse over this font, Excel changes and show me my text after this change. You can scroll with the mouse and hover the mouse over the font family to see all kind of fonts and select which font is best for you. I scroll back. I use in this project about it, select this font. I can change the font size. In this case, I can click here and Excel display the font size. I can use one or this. I'll stay with 11 size. You can use these buttons to increase or decrease the font size, and you can change the font column. If I click here, I can change the font column. I will select this font column, and you can change the alignment from the font. I will click in this title. I can left align or center or right. I can center again. If I resize this cell, I will show how to do this in the next lesson, but for now only for you understand. At the top, this is bottom align, center and top align. I use undo to go back to the previous. If you click here in this arrow in the right hand bottom, font settings, I have other options. For example, I can strike through, I can see this, subscript and subscript. I just click undo this and clicking OK. This is the basic manipulation of the font size you can do here on Excel. Another important feature here on Excel is the Mini Toolbar. You know how to change the font family, how to increase or decrease the font size. But imagine you stay in another tab, for example. You stay here on the data tab, using the data tools, and I want to change this text quickly because it's not easy to read this text because the font column. I can click with the right button. Here at the top, I have the basic tools available. I can bold this font or unbold. I can center or not. I can change the font from here, changes this. I can change the size. This is very useful because with Mini Toolbar it's not necessary to go to the home to have these options available. I will click with the right button again, and this time I will change the font color for this to more easy to read. And if I want to customize this column, I have two options. Here with the Mini Toolbar, I can click here and select standard color from this list, or I can use one of these recent colors, or I can click here more color. If I click here in more color, I can have standard color with a lot of options. You can click and select. If I click OK, Excel will apply this color, but I can custom this color. I can click and hold my mouse and drag to create a new color. Here is the current at the bottom and the new is the top. I can click OK. Excel will apply this new color. This is available here too on the Home tab. If I click here Home tab and click here, I have this option, more color. You can select which color you want. This is another important feature here on Excel. In the next lesson, I will show others information, how to insert the delete, others information available here. You can learn more in the next lesson, but for now the right button of the mouse is very important. Quickly access more common tools, features available for formatting, for manipulate the worksheet here on Excel. Another important resource here is background. I will click here on Hotel Smart Miami. On the left of the font color, I have the fill color. If I click here, I have the list of color I can apply for this cell. I use this and I will change the font color for this font color. If I select another color, if I click here and click here and the icon, Excel apply this color quickly. But I will undo this and undo this. This color represent the color is selected. I will continue select this. Excel changes to display the color is selected. With the background color, you have the same tools available here. You can click in more color. You can customize your color. It's the same options you have for font color. You have for fill column. I will select this again. I will apply this color. But for now, I will change this one level. I will select this. In the font color, I will click in the symbol and I use this. Here I will select another background color. In this case, I will select the first option here. Now I have the worksheet similar you saw previously in the other lessons. I will show how to use a border around your data. Imagine I want to choose a border around this cell. Here at the Home tab, I have this icon. If I click here, I have bottom border, top border. You can select which border you want. No border, all borders. If I click all borders and click around, Excel display now a border here. I will click here again. You can select outside border. Imagine I select 4 cells, for example, to be more clear. If I click all borders around all these cells. Select here and no border first, and then select outside border. Excel put all border only outside of this select. I can select shrink outside border. You have different options here. You can select the line color of this border. I can draw this border. I will do this. I will click here. If I click here more borders, you can have format cell. You can select from inside, like I'll show you before, outline, non-border, and you can select the style of this border. You have different options to adjust here the color of this border. If I want select this, I will put this inside to more clear. You can select the style of this border. If I want to select this or this border, you can use this style for this border. And I click here. Now I can see this border. But if I wanted to remove this, I can have 2 options. I click here and choose erase border. I can delete this manually. I can delete one part of this border, or I can press escape on keyboard, select all, Here I have this option. If I click all, clear everything, I have include the text. This is not what I want. If I click here, I click clear format, I clear everything and the text is continue here. I undo this. You can select no border and Excel remove. Now let's take a look how to format dates and numbers. I have a number of the total. Here at the top I have the $sign account number format as a dollar, euro or other currency. I click here, the $sign display on the left and the value on the right. If I click in this arrow, I can select English, United States or other format. You have options to find more account formats, but I'll select United States format. If I want to change this dollar position, here at the bottom I have this icon, number format. If I click here, click and drag this window, I have account with 2 decimal places, the symbol English, United States, but you can select the currency. I have the options for negative format or display in red or minus in front, but for normal values I want to select these options. If I click here, the $sign now is close to the value. Here at the number ID, I don't need to change this, but if I wanted to change it, here at the top I have general format. I can define this as a number if I want. If I define this as a number, Excel put the decimal place here because now is a number, but I want to undo this. Is not necessary for this value. In this case here I want to select this is value, and now if I select this is value and click to format, I click here, and now Excel format as current. And now I can select this data. I told you before, data is number internal on Excel. This number represent data. I have other date format. I can select the list, click, hold the mouse and scroll down to select the entire list. Here at the top on number format, I have the options to select short date for this information or long date. I click here long date. I have this date as a long date, but I will select short date. And if I click here, I have options to time format or percentage, fractions, scientific. You can select which options you prefer for your data, but for now it's okay. You can see now this column with changes. I will explain how to manipulate this in the next lesson, but for now one final thing I want to show is to select this and apply this format. To do this, I can click here. Here I have on the clipboard on the home tab the format painter. If I click here, this copy this format, I can click, drag and select the entire row. And now if I click Excel apply the same format, I will save this. Now let's take a look how to change the size and the width of the column and rows. Here at the top, if I click in the first cell, I hover my mouse between number 1 and number 2, the mouse icon change. If I click and hold my mouse, I can see the height and I can click and drag, resize my row height. If I click and drag, scroll up, I will choose 26. I want to change the font size, I will choose 18. Please do the same. And I want to change for the font to Abdi. I use this font now. This is how to change the font size. If I want to change vertical alignment, I can click here, Hotel Smart Miami. If I want to change the column width, I can hover my mouse between the column B and C. My mouse change. You can see the difference. Now I have this icon. If I click here between the column, I can click and drag to adjust the column width. If I want to change multiple column, I can click, hold my mouse and drag to select multiple columns, and between any column I can click and drag. When I release, all columns are resized at the same time. Here at the Home tab, I have this group, cells. I have this icon here. If I click here, a lot of options available. Whole height, auto fit, whole height, column width, auto fit, column width. If I click here, Excel adjusts the column width automatically for me. You can explore this. It's easy to understand. Only click and you can adjust. I'll click here. Imagine you have this column. I adjust this. This sign appears here. This is told me the width, the column is not enough to show all information. This occurs here with the total and with the date. To correct this with the column selected, I double click here and Excel auto fit the column width necessary for display all information. It's amazing. Imagine I have this situation. I click here, I click between and adjust this. My table is not well. I can click, hold my mouse, select the entire table. Doesn't matter, any column you can double click and Excel automatically adjusts everything for you. You have this option, manually adjust the columns, or you can click and format and auto fit column width. You have options to default width. You can see here, you can change. You have all options available here. I will make some adjustment here. I think I can increase the width, the date for more clear this information. And if I want, I can adjust the rows. If I select this and double click, Excel again adjusts this automatically and resize the row height. I will save this. Now I will show you how to insert new rows, new columns. If I click here and I want to insert a new row here, I will click with the right button. Then in this menu I have this option, insert. I have many options here. For insert an entire row, I will click here and click OK. Excel insert a new rows here. I will undo this. But imagine this situation. I have this table here and I want to insert a new row here. If I insert a new row here, I click with the right button and insert entire row and click OK. This will affect not only this table, but will affect the other table right here. I undo this to escape this and insert a new row only in this table. I will select the entire row and then click with the right button, choose insert and choose shift cells down and click OK. And now I insert a new rows only here and don't affect the other table. I will undo this. Now a new situation. Imagine I wanted to move this information from here to the right. I can select the cells I want to move and click with the right button, choose insert, shift the cell down or the right, and Excel open one space here and the data are moving to the right. I can undo this, click with the right button, insert, shift cell down, and Excel shift the cell down. I will undo this. Now let's see how to insert column. I will click with the right button here and insert. Excel insert a new column here. Undo this. If I wanted to insert another column here, right click, insert, Excel insert a new column here. It's easy and powerful. And if you want to resize this, I can click and drag around the tree width and release the mouse, save the file. With this you can manipulate rows and columns and insert new information on this new space. Another important feature is how to hide and unhide rows and columns. Imagine you have a big worksheet and you want to hide some information for presentation or for print, it doesn't matter. Imagine I want to hide this reservation ID here. I can click with the right button in the column name, in this case in column A, I have these options. Hide. Excel don't display this column more, but I have a green line here on the left. With this, I know I already hiding this column, but the content already present here on Excel. With this, I can change this. For example, 1025 and press enter. Excel continue work. Doesn't matter this column are displayed or not. You can do the same with rows. Imagine you have a large worksheet and you want to summarize some information. You can select some rows and you can right click and choose hide. With this information continue here, but now is not visible. If you look, Excel display 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then 15. You know, with this you have hidden rows here. To display these rows again, you can select the two rows between 5 and 15, right click and now unhide. With this, Excel display this row again. With the column, you can select two columns, right click, unhide with column. Because I hide the first column, I can't select this column. I use this triangle to select the entire worksheet and click with the right button on the column and unhide. With this, I have my reservation column again. This is important. You can manage your worksheet for easy, understandable and printing. Now I have another situation. I want to copy this worksheet. To do this, I'll click with the right button. Then I have this option, move or copy. If I click here, I have this window. With this, I can check this, create a copy of this worksheet and click in OK. I have a new worksheet with the same date as the original worksheet. This is very useful. Imagine you create one worksheet for January, and after finish this worksheet, you want to create a copy for February, March. It's easy to copy this worksheet and only replace the data with the respective month. But another important feature here is how to move this worksheet. You can click, hold your mouse and drag for a new position. This icon, if I release my mouse, this worksheet will stay here. Then I can click on this worksheet with the right button and I go to move or copy, and I can select move to the end. I click OK, and now my worksheet is at the end of the list. I prefer click and drag. When I stay in the position where I want to release this worksheet, I release the mouse and the worksheet is in the correct position. This is easy to do. With this, you can manipulate the worksheet. Another important thing I want to show here is how to apply one column for this worksheet. With the right button, we have a tab column. I want to select this column for this worksheet and click. When I click in another worksheet, Excel apply this column for this worksheet. This is important to differentiate between worksheet. I choose another column. Previous, I already select this column. Now I select this column. If I want another copy of this worksheet, move or copy, I want to select the copy, but now I select move to the end. Another copy. This worksheet I have now at the end. I click again, tab column, and then another column. With this, we can differentiate all worksheets with different columns for represent different data. Is interesting. I use this resource all the time. Now I will show you how to rename this worksheet. To rename one worksheet, right click on the worksheet. I have this option, rename. If I click, I can edit reservation to and press enter. Another way to rename on worksheet is double click. You can delete complete the text and type a new text and press enter, Or you can double click with the mouse where you want to edit it, and type new information. This is easy to rename one worksheet. To delete one worksheet, you click with the right button and choose delete. One interesting thing here, when the worksheet has data on it, Excel display an alert message. Microsoft Excel will permanently delete this worksheet. Do you want to continue? Delete. Undo. Don't work with this. Pay attention before delete your worksheet. If I want to create one worksheet, I create here in this symbol. Then I have a new worksheet. Create again. I have a new worksheet. And if I want to delete one worksheet but don't have content on this worksheet, I simply click with the right button, choose delete. Excel don't display alert about this. I will delete this worksheet and delete this worksheet again. This is how to manipulate worksheet here. Now let's take a look another important resources here on Excel: conditional formatting. Imagine these cells. I have a lot of cells, but I wanted to analyze these cells. I wanted to highlight the height cells or the lower cells. I have one resources here, conditional format. First, to select, click, hold my mouse and scroll down to select the entire list of my reservation. And then here at the home tab, I have conditional format. If I click here, I have a lot of options here. Highlight the cells, greater than, less than, between, equals. I can inform Excel to highlight this information with this condition. Top 10 buttons. If I select one of these top 10 items, I click here, Excel highlight these items. I can increase or decrease this number or reduce this number. I choose the format I want to highlight. This is yellow, green. You can select on this list, and after that you can click in OK. And now Excel differentiates this cell for another cell. I undo this, click again in conditional format. I have bars. I can hover my mouse and now I see difference between gradient fields, solid fields to highlight this information. I have color scales. If I choose one, I can highlight this information. You can choose from different lists. I have icons. I can use it to analyze this date. You can use symbols to represent this date. You can choose different options. But for now, I want to highlight with greater than. If the cells is greater than 5,000, I want to this highlight. I use the criteria 5,000. I wanted to highlight this reservation, but I use a green for this reservation because this is amazing for me. I click OK, and now I can create another rules between 4 and 5. I can click here. I inform the value. In this case, between 4,000 and 4,099. Between this amount, I can select this as yellow, for example. And then you can continue create new rows for lower than. I can click here, highlight, less than 4,000. I use the light red is okay for me, and clicking OK, and now I have a better analysis of my data. I can see quickly differences between highest reservations, intermediate reservations, and lower reservations. I can see all my data more easily to understand. I will save this. This is an important feature here on Excel. After you apply a conditional format, if you wanted to remove this conditional format, you can select the entire interval again. You have two options. First, you can click here and click clean all format. With this you remove conditional format, undo this. But now here on conditional format, if you click here manage rules, you can see all your rules. You can select and delete rules, and delete the rules, and clicking OK, and now you remove all this conditional format. I will undo this because I want this conditional format. I will save this. You have another important features you can use to analyze your data. I will show how to create charts here on Excel. To practice with me, please open the file charts. I have in this file only one worksheet. In this worksheet I have sales from smart hotels monthly revenue from January, February, and March, from cities on Miami, New York, Chicago, and so on. Charts is very useful here on Excel because with charts it's easy for analyzing your data compared to a lot of numbers like here. First, you can create chart, analyze one or two rows or columns, and you can analyze 1 month or more, depends of your situation. First, I will show how to analyze sales from Miami from January to March. I click here, hold my mouse and select the interval where I want to analyze. I can create a chart with keyboard. I press and hold the Alt keyboard and press F1. Excel create a chart for me. I can click, hold my mouse and drag this chart for a new position. Here I have sales from Miami for the first 3 months, from January to March. I will delete this. I can analyze all cities for the January. I can click, hold my mouse and select the entire interval. With this I can analyze all cities for January. Again, hold my Alt on keyboard and press F1. With this I can create a chart for all cities from the January. I'll delete this. Another way is to select the entire interval. When you select the entire interval, at the bottom here you have this icon, quick analysis. You can use the shortcut Ctrl plus key. I click here. With this I have options to formatting, totals, tables, spark lines, but I use charts. If I click here, I have a preview of kind of chart. I can select the chart I want to test, and I have more options to create more charts. But for now, I choose this custom column chart. I click here, and Excel create a chart for me with the entire period I select. To move this chart for a new position, I can click, hold my mouse, and release the mouse in another position. You can change the period of the analysis of this chart. You can click and resize this interval. With this I analyze only the first 2 months. I click and drag to select the entire period for this analysis. If you want to create a copy of this chart, you can go to the Home tab, click in Copy, click in a new cell, and click in Paste. With this, Excel create a copy of this chart. I will delete this, or you can create a new worksheet and click in Paste again to paste a copy of this chart. I will delete this worksheet. Another way you can use it to duplicate this chart is select the chart and press Ctrl D. You can have a new copy of this chart. With this you can change the period of the analysis, for example January for this chart, and you have the others 3 months for the other chart. I will delete this. When I select my chart, I have 2 new tabs here on the top. I have chart design. If I click here, I have this new tab and format. With this you can change your chart and change aspect of this chart, but I will save this. Now I will show how to change your chart. With the chart selected, at the top I have chart design. First, you can switch from rows and columns. If I click here, your chart changes completely. You can test and analyze depending on your data. You can do this. I can click here again. I can here change the aspect of the chart. We select different visualizations and format for this chart. Hold my mouse and choose one option. I will choose this. I can change the title for the chart. I can click delete and enter the chart title manually, but I will show another interesting thing. When you hold your mouse here, you can click, select your chart title. You can click here and type equals and click in the header here if you have one in your worksheet. When you press enter, Excel changes this for you with the title of the chart. I can click in this line to select the entire chart. Here I select the chart title. Here I can select the series, and here in plot area I can select this part of the chart. You can select this to format manually this part. I will select the entire chart. Here I can change the color of the chart. Colorful is the first option Excel uses for this, but I can select other colors for the chart. You can change this. If you want, you can click and drag to select other colors. You can click change the layout of this chart depending on your data. You can change this for other format. You can include new elements in your chart, grid lines, legend. If you want to change this right top, you can analyze different aspects of your chart. But you can change the entire chart with this chart type. At the top, you have options for this column category. You can click to see how your chart will see if you choose this. I will click here and Excel changing this. I can click again, change the chart from categories, from line, for a bar. You have a lot of options you can explore for yourself, but if you don't know which is the best chart for your data, you can click here, recommended chart. Excel display the most recommended chart for your data. You can select different options here to see the preview, and if you want one chart you like, you click and click OK, and Excel change this chart for you again. I will choose the color for the first, and I select this. Here, continue at the top, you have format. With format, you can format a specific aspect of your chart. I will click here, and you can apply different styles if you want. You can apply for your chart. You can select areas on your chart. You can change and apply different aspects, customizing this if you want. You can click, and you have a lot of options you can use it for customize your chart. It's very intuitive. Only click and select and explore the effects you can use it for your chart. It's easy to understand this, like simple format on Excel. I'll click here. This is okay for me. With the chart selected, I have other options here. In the first, I can include other aspects. For example, I can include labels, I can include tables, I can remove the chart title if I want. I can include data. You have more options. Here you can select another style if you want to try. You can choose another options. I will click here. Excel instantaneous, apply this. You can use the last options to filter for one specific month. You can highlight a specific month. You can analyze. This is amazing. You can use this for customize your chart. In this lesson, I will use the file tables and pivots. Please open these files if you want to practice with me. In this file, I have some worksheets created here. The data is the same, you already know, is about my reservation. I include new columns here. the email and status for these data. I will show how to create tables. Table is an important resources you can use it to analyze your data. Table includes some resources you can use it to improve your analysis, but important, table don't allow you have empty rows and columns. If you have empty rows, for example, in this case, you need to delete these rows first before you create your table. The table needs to be entire without free spaces on rows and columns. If you verify your table and don't have blank rows or blank columns, the table is full of data. This is required for create tables on Excel. Here at the home, I have these options here. Format as a table. You can create table direct from here. Only choose a specific format you want to use it. But another way is in insert table here at the top. If I click here, or I can use a shortcut Ctrl+T. I will click here and table. Try to confirm if I have headers here at the top. In my case, I have the first row, reservation ID. This is my header. If I don't have a header, I can uncheck this, but I have, and I click in OK. Excel format this one styles for itself, but I can change this. If you click in any cell, you can click here and change it for another style. Only hold your mouse in this list, you can see previous few formats with this. I prefer a more clean format. I will choose this. With table, you have options to filter your data. I will explain about filter in the next lesson, but it's a resource present in table. In this style, you have other options here at the top. When you create a table, a new tab display here at the top. If you go to another tab, you can see here table design. If you click outside our table, this new tab don't see anymore. You need to click on the table to see this new tab again. With this tab, you have some options. You can uncheck this if you don't want this in your table. You want to this resource, you can change this. I choose a new format to be more clear this. I choose this. If you uncheck this, you can remove this from your style, or you can include this format for your table. You can manipulate this for your table. I will choose again my previous format. Another resource important here on table is the opportunity to include a total row. If I click here at the end, you see a total in this row. I see the number of reservation in this table. It's an amazing feature. You can include and remove all the time. If you start type a new reservation here and press enter, Excel apply the table style here. It's an interesting feature. The same occur here. If you start a new column text, Excel apply the same style for this new column. Table is important feature. I'm here in sort data worksheet. Please click in this worksheet to practice with me. Another important resource here is how to sort your data. Here at the home tab, I have this icon here, sort and filter. If I click here, I have these options: sort A to Z, Z to A, or custom sort. I can have this icon in this resource. In the data tab is the same. I use a data tab because the icon is displayed direct here. Is more clear. You can sort your data for different criteria. If I want to source my data for guest name, I click in any cell and I choose the first option, A to Z. Excel sort all data A to Z in this order. Is amazing. If you have a large worksheet, is a very interesting feature. But you can use it for any column. I want you to state and click this. I can sort again. I can search for data too. If I want to descending order, I click here. I search for this date, or I can use Z to A for the last period and then the first period. I choose this. But imagine you want to search for two criteria, because if I want to choose search by city, I can choose this, but the state is not in this order. If I choose state, the cities change it, but I want both search by city and then state. I can use advanced sort. I can click here. First, I want to search by state. I choose the order A to Z. Then I can include a new level. I click here and choose which column I want to use for sort again. In this case, city. Again, I can use the same order, but if I want another order, I can choose this or custom list. And you can include new level if you want to. For example, include the total ascending order. I can include this, and smallest to largest or largest to smallest. I change this, and I can include more if it's necessary. When the criteria are selected, you can change the order if you want with these icons, or you can copy or delete. You can manipulate this. If I click in OK, Excel now apply A to Z for the state and then sort the cities and the total of this reservation. It's an interesting feature. If you want to go to again, you can click here and sort. I'll filter continue there. I will click in OK. But if you apply again the only for the reservation date, ascending date, Excel display the date again. You can sort your date, analyze your date, and then apply a new sort and continue analyzing your date. If I go here in the sort, because I changed from this source, Excel remove the other sort I apply. But I'll cancel this. It's okay for me. It's only for you understand how to use this interesting feature here on Excel. I use the worksheet filter data. Please click in this worksheet. Another interesting resource here is the filter. When you click here and filter, Excel include these new icons at the header of these columns. This resource is available not only here in the data tab, but at home tab. You can see here filter and sort. If you click here, you include or remove this resource. I will include this resource here, filter. I go to the data tab because it's more clear to see this resource direct here at the data tab. With this resource, you can filter reservation or your data by each information you have in the column. In my case, I wanted to filter by the states. I click in this arrow. Excel show all states I have clients here. I click uncheck this and I can select specific states I want to analyze. When I click here and click in OK, Excel filters all information only for this state I analyze. You can see here in blue the line numbers are in blue to represent the other informations are not excluded for this worksheet, are only hidden, but continue here in this worksheet. If I click again here, include a new state to analyze and click OK, the number of the reservation increase. If you want to copy this information, you can only select this information, go to the home, copy, and click and paste this information. You copy not the entire worksheet, only information you are analyzing at the moment. I undo this. This is interesting resource here on Excel. And if you want to remove the filter, you click here and clear filter from state. All information again stay here. I press escape because I not want to copy anything more. To remove the selection, you can filter by status. I want to remove this criteria from the list of reservation, and I only see confirm and pending reservations. You can manipulations your information with filter. Is amazing, interesting. You can filter by data. If you click here, you can see filter by month, by day, by year, depends of the amount of your data. You can filter by numbers, in this case reservation ID. You click in the arrow in text filter, you can specify equals or not equals. You can, in this case, with numbers, you can click and choose filter by color or filter number filter equals greater than. If you want to, for example, analyze reservation greater than $5,000, I can include this and click OK. Only reservation with this amount will display. You can click and select options in the list. Custom filter, you can explore this for yourself. I will remove this. I'm here and find and replace worksheet. I will show another important resources here on Excel. Here at the home tab, you have this icon, find and select. With this, you can have the first option, find. If you click in find, you can find a specific information. For example, if I type Chicago and press find next, Excel show me the first record it find. I can click and find the next. Excel display the next row and find all. Excel show me I have 2 rows with this information. I can replace this information if I want. Replace, stay here, but I will cancel this. You can click here again and find. If you go direct on replace, you can go direct to the replace tab here. I want to show how to look up and replace all information. Imagine the client change the email. I want you to update this information. I can type the information I want you to find and click and find next. Excel look up the information and select for me. I can type the new email address I want you to update and I click and replace. Excel replace with the new information. Imagine you have a larger worksheet with thousands information and want you to quickly update one information to another information. If specific information, you can do one by one, find the next and replace, find the next and replace, but it's the same information you want you to apply all records. You can select the first information you want to find and use replace all to replace all occurrence of this data. It's very easy to use this resource and you can use it to update and look up your information in your worksheet. Now it's time to learn how to use a pivot table. I'm in the pivot table worksheet. Pivot table are one of the most important resources here. With pivot table, you can analyze a small number of data or millions of data. You'll be surprised with pivot table. To create a pivot table, you can go to insert at the first option, pivot table. You click here. Excel confirm the interval of your data. In my case, everything is fine. Excel highlight here. You can create a pivot table on a new worksheet or put this existing worksheet. In my case, if I want, I can put my pivot table here, but normally I create new worksheet, or everyone create a new worksheet to use this pivot table. I click in OK. Excel create a new worksheet. I can click and drag for the end, and I can double click to rename this pivot table and press enter. This new worksheet we use it for analyzing your data. I have different items here. At the top you have 2 new tabs, pivot table analysis and design. Here you have pivot table fields and pivot table, this icon here. First, to understand pivot table, this field represent the header here, reservation ID, date, guest name. These headers with column name represent these fields in pivot table. You can use both to analyze all information. First, I want to analyze the total of my reservation. I have a lot of reservation, but I don't know the total. With pivot table, you can simply click here, check total, and Excel resume this information and calculate this total for you. Instead of click, you can click, hold your mouse and drag to values is the same. I want you to analyze the total by city. I have rows and columns. You can make your table dynamic with PivotTable. I want you to see the names here. I can check and quickly Excel put the name of the city and the total or reservation of this city. But imagine I don't want this by rows. I want this by column. I can click and move to the columns, and now I have this by columns, the name of the city and the total. Doesn't matter a small number of data or millions of data, Excel do the sum quickly. It's an amazing feature. But I remove this. Imagine I want to this analysis by states. I can check, and now I have my analyze this total by state. I will choose this by city again, but imagine you want to group this information by status. I can select the status and put this before the city. I have canceled first, confirm the total, and sum of total this information. Is amazing. It's an interesting feature to understand and analyze. If you don't know status, the rows, and you want the status as a filter, you can move this status as a filter here, and now you have all reservation, and you have the opportunity to select all kind of reservation. I want to analyze only confirm. I can choose and click OK. Now I have this amount of result, and I click cancel. I can choose another status, and I can analyze all reservation. This is amazing feature. You can use it for manipulation all information. But imagine you want to know the numbers of reservation. I have the total, but I don't know the numbers. I don't have this information here in my reservation table. I want you to calculate this. I will use the column reservation ID because each reservation has a unique number. I can select reservation ID and put here. Normal operation is some Excel try to summarize these reservation numbers, but I don't do this. I want you to count. I can click in this icon and change this value field settings. Instead of summarize, I can change the operation of this. I can use a count or other operation I want. I have a list of operation, and I can click in OK. And now I see the count of reservation. If I want to change this here, I can click with the right button and select value field settings, and I can go to the same results. I can delete this and update the column name from here. I can choose this. Now I know my total reservation from which city. Another important feature you can do here is you can use a data column. For example, I have the data of my reservation. Here I have this column, and I can use this instead of the values here in the columns. I can remove this, and I can use the reservation date here in the column. Now I know my entire period of this reservation. But if I click with the right button and choosing group these options, I can group this for month or for day or for quarters or years. If I have a lot of data with this, I have a small number of reservation, for example only January. But if I have other months of the year, let me put the total here in the value. I can see these numbers for month. I can make this analysis 1 month or 2 months because I have only a month. All my sales are from January, but if I have another month, I can analyze this. If you close this field list panel, you can click on PivotTable, and the first option here, field list, you go back to this PivotTable fields. If you click outside of PivotTable, this disappears. If you click inside your PivotTable, it's the show again. If you click in design, you can change the styles of your PivotTable. I can select a different format style here from the list compared to the previous normal table. I choose this. You can include or remove banded columns or rows. You can decide which style you want to apply. You can include other elements. You can navigate and explore this for yourself. This is easy. This is very interesting resources here on Excel. Now, another important resources here is how to create pivot chart. I continue here with my pivot table. I increase the zoom a little to more clear for you, and I can click here on insert. I have options here, pivot chart. If I click here, pivot chart, Excel display recommended chart for me. I can choose one pivot chart and clicking OK. I can click and drag. I will resize this a little to be more clear for you because a lot of data. And I can format this chart like I'll show you before, but I can change this for other formatting. I can choose a different style of the chart quickly. Only click, select, and Excel show how this information will be with these settings. I can select another pivot chart. You can choose different format. I will resize this a little. Let me verify. Just a second. A small, a little bit. With the right button, I can click here and choose number format. I can reduce decimal place here. With this, my value will be more clear here. Now it's okay. This is better for me. I can manipulation this information with the city. I can apply filters here. If I want to know data about specific cities, I can uncheck this to unselect cities, and I can analyze, for example, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Chicago. I can select this. Now I have this analysis focus on these cities. When I apply a filter on my pivot chart, this filter apply to my pivot table because both are connected. I can remove this if I want. I can click filter. I can filter by the status, only analysis confirm, and select this. This is amazing and interesting to analyze your data. If I have others month here, I can choose the specific period I want to analyze. This is how to use it and how to create pivot chart. More powerful compared to traditional chart. Pivot table and pivot chart are very powerful resources. You can use it to analyze your data. In this lesson, I'm using the file printing. Please open this file if you want to practice with me. I have my reservation table, you already know. Now I'll show another important resources. I'll click here in the tab view. I have these resources, freeze panes. Imagine this worksheet has thousands and thousands or maybe millions of rows. When I scroll down, I lost the header for the first rows. I want to fix this. Or if I scroll to the right, I lost my reservation ID. I can fix these rows and columns. Here I have these options, freeze panes. If I click here, I have the first option, freeze the top row. If I choose this, now I can scroll down with the first row, freeze, and I can unfreeze panes. I scroll down again normally. I have the options to freeze the first column. If I choose this, Excel display a line here, and now I can scroll and continue to see the first column. But imagine I want to freeze both the first row and the first column. I can click here and then I choose freeze panes, and with this Excel freeze both first column and first rows. You can fix this. I can unfreeze panes. If I want to freeze the first two columns and the first row, I can click here. Excel uses this cell as reference, and I can click freeze panes, and now I freeze the first row and the first two columns. Another resource I want to show you, let me unfreeze panes, is split. Imagine you have a larger worksheet and you want to fix the first 10 rows, for example, and compare values with other rows. You can select the line you want to fix. Here you can have the options split. With this Excel, divide the screen in two parts. You can now have scroll bar here at the top, and you have scroll bar here on the bottom. You can navigate independent from first part and the second part. You have these options to combine dual window in the same space. You can remove this by double click. We remove this. If you want to separate this again, you can select this and split. And now I can split this in 4 parts. I have options to manipulate each part independently. I can double click to remove, and you can divide this horizontal or vertical. I double click to remove this. This is another important resource you can use. If you select the entire row, divide one part at the top, another part at the bottom. If you want to divide this in 4 rows, only select one cell and split Excel divide in 4 parts. If you click and split again, you remove this. Another important resource I want to show you, here at the bottom on the status bar, you have the options page layout. You can prepare your worksheet for printing. If I click here, I can see which information will be printed in the first page, which information will be printed in the second page. If I want, I can include a header here at the top, and I can include more information if I want. I can see all my information previous before printing. If I want to back to my normal view, I can click here again, normal. You can switch between normal view and page layout view. In the next lesson, I'll show how to prepare this for printing. Now I'll show how to modify this to print. Continue here in the status bar. I have this new icon, page layout preview. If I click here, now I can see which information will be printed and which information not be printed. If I click here in file and choose print, I can see the print from reservation ID until email. I can click back here again. Now I can click and drag to print from the reservation ID to total. I want to print this information. If I click file again and print, now I print from reservation ID to total. This is okay for me, but if I want to print all information, I can click and drag this line for the right, and now I can print all my information. Excel can reduce the font size, but I can print all information. I can click and print, and now I can see all my information. Here in the print area, you can change the orientation from the paper. If you change this, you can have more space. You can choose information from your print. This is you can see in other Office applications. I'll click in back, and I can click in normal view again. In this lesson, I'm in a new file, protection. Please open this file to practice with me. In this lesson, I'll show how to protect your worksheet and workbook. Here at the top, I have the tab review. If I click here in the review, I have this option, protect worksheet. I can see a lot of items I can allow people do. Normally I use the default, select and unselect unlock cell. I can type a password to protect worksheet 123, for example, and I click in OK. I confirm the password and click OK again. Now if you go to the home, people can't modify this worksheet. If people try to insert information, people can receive an error alert. I'll click in OK, but people can delete this worksheet. To protect the workbook, I can click in review again and protect workbook. I enter a password again, 123, only for example for this course, and again to confirm and click OK. Now people can delete this worksheet. This is an interesting feature. You can use it to protect your worksheet and workbook. To unprotect, you click and type the password again, and again type the password. Now people can use it normal the worksheet. Now, after finish your work, you have more options to share this worksheet with other people. Here at the top, I continue here in the tab review. You have this icon, share. You have a lot of options. You can share this by email, or copy this link and send by email, or you can send link for this sheet. If you work with teams, you can work together. But for me, I will show how to share with email. I click in the first options. You have options to include an email or group and send a message for another person can work with this worksheet. And you can copy this link. I will cancel this, I will save this, and continue in the next lesson. This is the end. I hope you like this course. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I hope you see you again in another video. Please subscribe in my channel so you can receive new content like this every week. See you in the next video. Bye.